This week, my focus is going to be mostly on the US dollar, and in today's video, we're going over setups and ideas for the week ahead. You guys know, if you're a regular on the channel, that I do this every Sunday. I go through market setups and ideas that I'm looking for the week ahead, and I try and summarize my plans on a Sunday video. So if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button if you're enjoying this sort of content. What we're going to do here is I'm going to start with the dollar, and I'm going to basically give you guys my thoughts. So recently, we had CPI numbers, which were red hot inflation, which was definitely a bullish catalyst for the dollar. The main reasoning there is red hot inflation is probably going to pressure the Fed to raise rates and do something to combat that inflation, which are positive impacting things to the US dollar. We also had strong jobs numbers, and overall things look attractive for the dollar in my view, especially after this recent dip that we've seen on the 4-hour chart. So my primary focus this week is looking for USD setups, so we will be taking a look at some ideas there going into today. Before I get too far into the video, I do want to say we are doing our Valentines Day Sale. Happy Valentine's to everybody in the chat, by the way, or in the audience. What we're going to be doing is 20% off our VIP group. We're looking for more serious traders who want to join us, and if you've been wanting to join, now is your chance. Every time I take a trade, you can see the trades being taken by myself. We have a couple other analysts in our group. We have Annie, Ivan, Patrick, myself, and Frank is coming back. If you guys remember Frank from some of the content, Frank is coming back to the Trade Alerts group. He's been off to school, but he is coming back soon, so that should be kind of fun. Also get access to our chat rooms 24/7. You can meet traders from around the world. We have people from Australia, Asia, North America, Europe, all over the place. So yeah, definitely very cool there. And then of course we have an entire education section. We have, you can download our strategy PDFs and a whole bunch of stuff. What I'll do here is, if you guys are interested in checking out the offer that we have, is 20% off our gold VIP. All of the information that you would need is down below in the description. Should be right there at the top of the description. There's a promo code for subscribers. You punch that code in. It's going to give you 20% off and tell you all about the different perks. But again, anytime I take a trade, you'll get a notification. So for example, last week I had a really hot week. Pound Swiss, we took some good trades. Here was, I entered back down here, closed out around here. Of course, didn't catch the whole move. But sometimes that's not what matters. And you can actually see it close out bearish towards the end of the week. But I took a buy trade on the pound yen, closed out here, and these are real trades that I'm taking. It's no nonsense. All that sort of stuff, when you see on the internet, is a lot of hype. And here's my euro dollar trade, which we should start talking about euro dollar here. So my analysis for euro dollar is basically as follows. So we had this big shoot to the upside, right? ECB came out real strong, looking attractive for the euro. But the thing is, we've been bearish on the euro for quite a while. I didn't change my complete tone on the euro. I was never bullish on the euro as it started rising. In fact, I looked at this as a potential opportunity to get short as we were starting to tap up into resistance. Now, I didn't catch the top here. If I had caught the top here, I'd be looking like an absolute hero, right? Because my $150 profit, my little 150 move could be, shoulda, coulda, woulda been like $400, $500 at this point. But what I do want to say is this. So we came up to this point of resistance in the context of, in a longer term perspective, a downward trend. So downward trend came in, price popped underneath this supportive structure, which was kind of my trigger for an entry. So basically we came underneath here. You can see this is where I entered on my broker and then went short. And now we hit target number 1, which was the low of the week. But then more importantly I'm looking for a move down to this point. And that's still my thought. Now, if this thing pulls back prior to getting there, there may be some opportunities for some re-entries. In fact, we could take a look at the 1-hour chart and see what we're talking about. So again, this is where I entered after rejection off of this zone. I went ahead and took that short. But let's say, for example, that price just trails up here. There may be some short-term ideas of just kind of joining into something like that. Now, of course, please remember, this is not financial advice. I'm not sharing, this stuff for you to just go copy and, it's going to be magical signals. It's going to make you rich. Nothing like that. But again, every time I take a trade, it kind of looks like this, right? I'm sharing my full thoughts on the trade setup. No, just like, oh, entry, exit. This stuff is still, of course, important just to see what the orders are, but this is the stuff that matters, right? Why is this trade being taken? Well, I'm bearish in the euro, lags US in monetary policy, with the Fed expecting to raise rates aggressively this year, right? So I'm bearish on this pair, and I do like euro dollar to the short side. We've discussed this a lot. The reason this is actually kind of short is just because we've been beating this topic over and over. We talked about it quite a few times on the stream and in my trade alert section. So yeah, I shorted the euro, basically my idea being stop above the high of day, and was able to catch a little bit of that sell-off that we saw towards the end of the week last week with the Russia-Ukraine situation, which is another reason, by the way, that I'm actually bullish on the dollar. You might say, well, why is the euro selling off? Well, think about it, right? Russia is this big guy over here, and then you got Ukraine here, and then you got Europe over here, right? Well, I guess this is not drawn to size. Europe is like here, right? So the supply issues of potential war and whatever, right? Just it being so close to Europe is probably a shaky thing for euro investors or traders. So to some degree, I am even more bearish than the euro than I was before. So I think the euro very, very possible to make a move back down to the previous low, right? Especially if things develop with the Russia-Ukraine situation. So that is kind of my thoughts on the euro dollar. I am looking for shorts, looking to hold my short ideally down to levels of structure to try and basically trail stops and lock in some more profit on this move. But overall, looking to see if we can eventually target a move back down to that previous low and perhaps even below it. So that's my personal take on the euro dollar. Let's take a look at the pound here. The pound, let's look at the 4-hour chart. So 4-hour chart pound, very, very mixed, right? The pound is definitely one that I'm still long biased on. The trades that I took last week, let me see if I can pull this up. So I recorded this. So last week, right, NZDJPY was my only loss. Took a pound Swiss long, made 26 pips, nothing crazy. Pound yen, 76.7 on pound yen. And then pound Aus, 83.9. So I was pretty much long biased all week last week on the pound and was able to make some pretty good profits there. So I'm still long biased on the pound. I have no until we see something really dovish from the Bank of England. I am still looking to go long on the pound. Now, one more thing I should say. Remember, I'm not going long against the dollar, right? So pound dollar is not one that I'm personally trading. I'm going long against the yen, going long against the CHF and the AUD. So just notable. So when we look at the pound against the dollar, from this perspective, all I've been doing is in terms of just kind of sharing content for traders who do trade it a little bit more aggressively. I've just been doing some simple technical analysis. And right now we've kind of entered into a range environment where we're seeing sellers, buyers. And, honestly, with the dollar being so strong, I would actually personally, if I had to pick a side, I would lean towards more bullish on the dollar, right? So that could potentially bring us back down to the lows, especially after that inflation number that we had. I'm still bullish on the pound and I'm still bullish on the dollar. So I can't really trade this one because, again, I have to go long one and go short the other. And I don't really want to do that with these two currencies, as these are basically the two on my top watch list at the time of making this. So let's continue on. Dollar yen, this one I do have an opinion on. So dollar yen on that dip, I was looking at it and I was rubbing my hands together and I was looking for some potential longs. Didn't get it because I was already kind of in my euro dollar short, so I'm already exposed to a dollar long thesis. However, 61.8% retracement. Look how it just missed it. Very, very close there. But I wanted to just see if there was anything here. I actually, truthfully, I liked the idea of a buy at the 38.2. So there's still maybe some rejection, and depending on how we open here on the market open this week, pound yen may still be a long, especially at this zone. Now that we've kind of held this area, this is kind of cool. So we dropped, and we did break past that level, but we didn't stay below that level. We very quickly found buyers down in that zone for dollar yen. So for me, dollar yen, this previous high is still, kind of a target. We technically, I think we barely touched it. I can't really tell by this candle or not, but either ways, my thoughts with dollar yen is that we are probably headed back up to 116.337. I still think that the dollar is very strong for good reason, and I think that there is potential for that to break out and to even form new highs. Now, it may take some time to do that, and on the pullbacks, that may be, in my opinion, some opportunities to look to try and get involved. at a good entry point. So of course, in hindsight, you know, the best spot would have been like right along right here. But of course, we don't live in hindsight. We live in the real world and in real time. So for me, still like the idea of potentially joining this move on the tap back here. Going into this week, we'll just have to see how it opens. But I do like dollar yen long, and targets being up there at 116.4. Not so bad. I do like that a lot. So let's continue on. We'll take a look at Aussie dollar. Now the Aussie dollar still a little bit mixed. I'm not super bullish on the Aussie. I made a video last week about my thoughts on the Aussie and Kiwi pairs. But then with the stuff that developed with the dollar just had me back to my dollar bullish idea, right? The dollar, I am still, you know, the numbers that are coming out, the jobs numbers, the GDP growth, I believe is something that we have coming up. Will be interesting to see that. But overall, we're just seeing a really hawkish Fed. And so for me, the dollar is just a buy for the time being. So when I look at something like this, I'm basically looking for some structure breakouts, looking for retests and continuations, with the idea being a couple ideas of targeting points on the Aussie dollar would be looking for breakouts down to 70.56. You got this previous low right around 69.69. Nice. So that's the idea there on Aussie dollar, is looking for breakouts, looking for retests, probably going into this week. That is majorly what I will be focusing on if I do trade this pair. Now, the thing is, right, I may be short biased on the Aussie against the dollar, but there's times, for example, like Aussie yen, I'm actually long biased on this one, right? I actually like the idea of going long on this. Why? Because I'm short biased heavily on the yen. So, you know, I should really draw, I got to get my tier list. Back in the day, I used to always do a tier list on all the currencies so that I could visually show which ones I like the most, which ones I like the least. But just pretend with me here for a second. USD is definitely up top, and for me, JPY and CHF are on the bottom at this time. So, that is just my take on it until further notice. I am pretty much bullish on USD. I'm moderately bullish on Aussie and NZD, moderately bullish on CAD, bullish on GBP, and strongly bullish on USD. That's kind of my summary there. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts. So Aussie yen, very interesting here, pulling back, and you can kind of see we just barely tapped structure and then found the buyers there. So if that actually comes back into play, that's a beautiful pullback. I bet you that's that is a 50% retracement. Yep, there's 50% retracement. So we went swing low to swing high, pulled right back down to it, and found buyers. So if that taps back to the lows there, I think there's some decent risk reward probably, with the idea being, you know, stop loss below structure. So let's say, for example, depending on what type of trader you are, you could go lower time frame, find structure like that, for example, and then targeting, you know, you've got a couple of targets where the shelf here where we kind of fell off, and then of course the previous high. So a couple of moves there potentially to look at for Aussie yen. I do like that long side on that pullback, so 50% may be something to look at going into this week. So yeah, that's my take on Aussie yen. And speaking of some of the yen crosses, let's also take a look at NZDJPY. I know we discussed this last week, so I try and follow up on my ideas as best I can. It's just that we make a video every day for the channel, so there is a lot to follow up on. If I spent all my time following up on videos, it'd be really hard to ever get to new content. But my Aussie yen and NZD yen ideas are now actually looking like they're coming into play, so that's why we're going to talk about that. 50% also on NZDJPY, very similar idea. So what I will say is that going into this week with that yen strength coming in, you know, the Russia-Ukraine situation is a driving force on that. The yen came in very strong off of a reaction to the news, right? So these moves right here, that's basically news. I mean, it certainly is news, right? The Russia-Ukraine situation, if that were to worsen, right, that's going to cause markets to tumble a little bit. It's going to cause some hiccups in terms of risk on sentiment turning more to risk off, as people are going to be like, okay, let's hold some cash. This is a little bit scary. And so you put that all together. That's kind of what caused the drop there towards the end of the week. For those of you guys who were wondering about that, that was the probably the primary reasoning behind that. And so, you know, my thoughts on that is, okay, my personal take, and I could be wrong about this, because please know I'll be the first one to call myself out. I was very wrong about the pandemic. I at first, of course, in hindsight, oh, Nick, you should have known that I was going to do all that to markets. But when it first started, it just sounded like something that was going to kind of blow over. I don't know if anybody else can admit that with me, but that was my thoughts. People were selling stocks like crazy, selling markets like crazy. And I was just, okay, I'm going to hold my stocks. Now, of course, I still made money in the pandemic from the drop because I was able to purchase a lot more assets, stocks, things like that. But the point is, sometimes you have an idea and it's completely wrong. And that's why whenever you see me taking trades, right, I have stops on my trades. I have, a point where I'm happy to say, you know what, Nick, you were wrong about this. Let's just hop out. Right. So that's important. So even if I do think that the yen is a potential short on a rally like this, right? Or in this case, a Aussie yen is a buy against the yen, right? On a drop like this, I can be wrong. So that's why I put stops in place to protect myself in case, let's say that things come out and then they look okay but then something worsens and you just get this, right? I'm not going to be caught holding on to a trade like this with no stop and just begging the market to reverse, right? Because, when we saw the pandemic happen, markets went in one direction for a very long time. In fact, let's do a history lesson here of what happened during 2020 on the Aussie yen. Some of you guys weren't even trading during this time. Probably a lot of traders, right? Because unfortunately, a lot of people who trade, they don't do it for very long. So a lot of times the people who watch these sort of videos are newer traders, and that's okay. But just know that markets can do some insane things. Like look at what happened in 2020. If you were just holding trades with no stop loss continuously, this move was 1,400 pips basically in one direction. Sure, there were pauses where you went sideways, but for the most part, there was no significant rally. So sometimes people, what they'll do is they will try and buy, and they're like, eventually it'll go back, but then look at this. It just didn't. It just never did. And so a lot of accounts were blown. A lot of people quit trading right around here probably as this market just kept going and going. So just be aware of that stuff. Let's take a look at gold now, XAUUSD, and see what we're thinking with this move here on gold towards the end of the week. So gold had an insane move at the end of last week. And why is that? Well, risk off. Big concern with the Russia-Ukraine situation. We saw gold really leap on that, right? 1858 is where we pretty much ended the week, which is a crazy move higher. So yeah, where are we looking at gold? Well, we've got some structure that we broke through. If we can clear that area and hold above it for a little bit, maybe there's a potential retest. But in terms of targets, it does look like it wants to try and make a move back up to 1877. And remember, 2020, gold did this for like weeks, right? It was just trending higher. And so you have to be aware that markets can go in one direction for a long time, even though it seems irrational sometimes, right? There's that old saying, the market can remain irrational longer than you can remain solvent or something like that, right? The point is it can go crazy for a long time, a lot longer than you may even expect. So anyways, gold here on a potential pullback may be attractive. I'm not personally interested in jumping into a long, here. But if we were to dip back a little bit more and you are bullish on gold and maybe even think that you have an opinion on the Russian-Ukraine situation that is different than mine, right? Maybe there's the idea of you're long biased on gold, right? And that's part of the fundamentals. When we talk about that on the channel, people have differing opinions on fundamentals just like they do on technicals, right? So when we look at this stuff, the Russia-Ukraine situation, if you think that things are going to worsen, if you've done your research, you've done your homework, or you have some opinion on it, look at these places and make your own decisions on that. But again, the gold market here, to be completely fair, it looks very strong after that rally, right? We saw a lot of strength come in here, and now you've got a lot of structure here. You got a lot of points where you may see buyers who want to defend this. So Yeah, definitely interesting looking at gold here. And like I said, longer term targets looking pretty reasonable up at 1877 now after the recent move higher. That big explosion in volatility is probably going to do good for gold. Gold, we often see this happen, right, where you get these big explosions in volatility and they have the opportunity to last and to continue moving. So again, for example, big explosion, continuations, pullbacks, continuations, right? So keep that in mind looking at gold. We had a big explosion up, right, on a news catalyst. I believe it was like, the White House basically announced that the Russia-Ukraine situation was looking a bit intense and warning Americans to get out of Ukraine, right? That's definitely going to shake markets a little bit. And then there's differing opinions there because it's trying to forecast something that, of course is a little bit out of my realm. But I was, watching a documentary on it so far. And one thing that seemed to be interesting is that from what they were saying is that, a lot of Ukrainian people are like, this is nothing new. We've seen this for a while. And, we know how this story ends kind of thing. However, you sometimes that's just things unexpected happen, right? So in the pandemic stuff, right, there's a lot of times where people were saying similar stuff. This is nothing new. Viruses come and go. It's not going to be the end of the world. And it wasn't the end of the world, don't get me wrong, but it shut down supply lines like crazy and caused markets to go wild for a while. So, it is something to definitely take into consideration is that situation, what that could do to the dollar, what it could do to gold. But again, remember, we've talked recently about how, the dollar can go up as gold is going up. And that's what we saw. We saw the gold market moving higher and the dollar moving higher last week off of this news. And this probably being a majorly component was the idea that, okay, so the dollar is attractive compared to a lot of the other ones. For example, Aussie dollar really sold off, right? People didn't want the Aussie anymore. They wanted the stronger, more reliable US dollar in a face of potential war or volatility due to that situation. So that's kind of something that's taken over markets, at least the headlines right now. We'll see how that plays out. That's my thoughts. Hey guys, don't forget the Valentine's sale. If you have been meaning to join us, this really is the best chance that you're going to get for a while. 20% off of our gold membership. It's the one-time purchase option. The link and information is down below in the description. But again, you get access to our trade alerts. You get access to our MT4 softwares with the gold membership. It's all like a one-time thing, so you don't have to pay every month or anything like that with the gold membership. So all of that, check it down below in the description. You can chat with us if you have any questions. We'd be happy to help. And don't forget to use that promo code to get the 20% off code. So thank you so much for watching today, and hope you have a great trading week. Let's see you next time.